This is Michael Strong from expanseonline.co, and we are here tonight with Ken Danford as our guest, along with my illustrious colleagues, Kath Frace, Tori Gaddis, and Andrew Sachs. And without further ado, Kath will introduce Ken. Go for it, Kath.
Thanks, Michael. Well, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Kenneth today to our webcast. I've known Ken for a while. He's visited Workspace, and he has got a really amazing model himself near Amherst. Right, Ken? I'm not very familiar with your area, but he has started a coalition of schools called Liberated Learners, which is bringing together all different schools, really little independent schools that have been catering to the needs of teens who who've decided that school is not the right option for them, and they want to opt out of school and create their best life ever in a different location. And Ken has managed to bring all of those environments together in an organization called Liberated Learners. He has his own that he runs. He's an author. He's written a book, which is called School is Optional. Oh, great. Yes, there it is. And we've brought him here today because, you know, I really believe that, you know, for many, many teens, that school is not a healthy environment, and they have much better options outside the school system. And Ken is here to tell you about his experiences, and we want you to know that there are options. If your teens or your children are not thriving in a school system, there are a lot of options, maybe options that are 2 to 3 times better than being in a school environment. So I'm very excited that Ken is joining us today, and let's just kick off, Ken, with telling us a little bit about yourself and why you believe that school is optional and what you're doing up in Massachusetts.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to all of you guys, and happy to meet all these new faces here tonight and potentially a lot of new people out in the Facebook world. I am currently living in Montague, Massachusetts, which is outside of Amherst and Northampton, if you know, from the University of Massachusetts and Amherst College, and Smith and Mount Holyoke in Hampshire. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, went to public school all the way through, was inspired to become a public school teacher, went to Brown University for teacher training, having gone to Amherst College first, which is partly why I ended up in this area. I was good at school. I liked school. I was going to become a teacher to make school better for everybody. I worked for 3 years in Prince George's County, Maryland, basically one neighborhood outside of the district, and basically all African-American community, Suitland, Maryland. Took a year off with my wife in South America doing a program called World Teach. Moved up here, got a job in the Amherst Public Schools, taught for 2 more years, was enrolled in a doctorate program at UMass so I could become a principal, superintendent, and secretary of education and your general progressive education reformer. But then I hit the wall and couldn't do it. And at 30 years old, I resigned my job and started North Star, Self-Directed Learning for Teens, which was then called Pathfinder. I was on my way to becoming the professional progressive reformer that I thought I was going to be. But then I decided that the real problem in teaching wasn't class size, it wasn't money, it wasn't resources, it wasn't even the freedom to teach US history the way that I chose to in my classroom, which I largely could do. It was none of those things. I decided the problem was I was teaching kids who didn't want to be there. I was trying to make kids care about things they honestly didn't care about. And then I was scolding them for not caring about it and telling them they were dreadful human beings who were going to be doomed for life if they didn't do well in 8th grade US history. And that was kind of absurd, especially when I was teaching them about strikes, resistance, challenging the system, heroes of US history who resisted or didn't accept the way the status quo was. These are the heroes. And then I'm telling them to sit down and shut up and no, you can't go to the bathroom right now. And if you want an A, you better do what I say, right? Like, it's crazy. I listened to myself and said, this is not okay. I don't want to be this human being. And a number of the kids who weren't doing well in my classroom were doing just fine outside of school. There were nitwits in my room trying to distract and mess things up. But outside, they were doing their sports, their music, their art, they had jobs. They're perfectly fine, intelligent human beings who loved life. They didn't like school. And they would come to mess up my class for their own amusement as best they could, right? And I decided that I wanted to be the guy they wanted to see, not the guy they wanted to mess up. How do you get to be, on schooling terms, the person that they're really sad it's a snow day? They don't get to go to their class. They don't get to have that interaction. I want to be that person, right? And well, I couldn't see it happening in school. I mean, I know there's electives and every teacher, every school, there's some teachers who carve out their niche and it works out. I know there are those people, but teaching 8th grade U.S. history, standard requirement courses to people, it wasn't going to happen. And then, well, I'm struggling with, so I don't really want to go to private school and do the same thing for bigger stakes, money-wise and prestige and grades. And it's the same thing of getting the best grade to go to college anyway. And I wasn't really interested in younger kids in progressive alternative schools in K through 6. And so I didn't really know what to do. And I was, maybe I should go start a summer camp, play with kids outdoors after school. I don't know what I'm going to do, right? But I didn't really want to give up my academic history stuff and my teaching stuff. And plus these kids need something different. These kids would come to me, some of the best focused kids in school would just be coming up to me in the afternoon to my class and just being like, get me out of here. You don't even know what a waste of a day this has been. Mr. Danford, they would say back then. It was hilarious. I mean, it was sad. And so I wasn't really ready to give up, but I didn't know what to do. And my friend, co-teacher Joshua Hornick, gave me a copy of Grace Llewellyn's book, The Teenage Liberation Handbook, How to Quit School and Get a Real Life in Education. I didn't know beans about homeschooling or unschooling. Didn't even know unschooling was a word. Never heard of, homeschooling. I thought was just some elitist, obnoxious, stupid movement that I didn't need to know about because I'm a public school reformer. And I was flabbergasted that, oh my God, these kids don't go to school and they're awesome. What? You can just not go to school and then they win the science. And then I was like, well, they're cheating. Of course they win the science awards. I mean, the debate thing, because they don't go to school all day. Of course they have extra time to win all those projects or whatever they do, right? But, I got over that pretty quickly and started really exploring and reading and doing a whole year's worth of figuring this out and realizing that homeschooling, unschooling was just a movement I didn't know anything about. There's lots of things I don't know about. People are vegans and people do home birth and people do all kinds of alternative cultural things that I don't know about that are perfectly, improvements over standard American culture. Okay. So homeschooling is that. Homeschooling is that improvement, that alternative thing that's better than the normal culture that none of us know about and we all think is something it's not. Oh, huh. Well, the thing to do with that information was not for me to quit my job and barge in on the homeschoolers and become the history guru of the homeschoolers. I had zero interest. There weren't enough of them. They weren't going to pay me. They didn't need me. They were fine without me. Barging in on the homeschoolers to make my life better was never part of the vision. What became the vision immediately, like Grace and reading all these books and talking to my friend Joshua, was we should quit our jobs and help all the school kids quit too and do this. How come everybody doesn't homeschool? Well, we know why everybody doesn't homeschool, because it's intimidating, it's misunderstood, it's overwhelming, it's daunting. And even if you do it, it's hard to sustain past the juvenile years, past age 11 or 12, kids want separation from the parents and, it's mostly a younger kids movement. We know all this stuff. And people knew it back in 1996 when this is going on, 95, when I'm doing my learning. So Josh and I were like, well, what would it take for us to quit our jobs and help all the kids who want to quit too? And as long as we're doing that, we'll help all the kids from all the other local schools do it too. Well, this is not rocket science. We're going to rent a little office where kids can gather during the day. We're going to become experts in how to file homeschooling papers so everybody can legally get out of school and be free and independent. We're going to, in our little cozy center, offer classes and tutoring and advisories and, help people make the most of it and have a nice, pleasant social place where kids can be as long as they're nice to each other. But we're going to do this on our terms, which means no one has to come. We're not a school, and technically everybody in Liberated Learners are not schools. We are community centers or resource centers or whatever word you choose to use. We're programs. We're coaching families to file homeschooling papers for that one kid in their family who can't stand school. They may have multiple kids who are doing fine in school, and it's the one kid in every family that we're after, okay? These parents do not see themselves as homeschooling parents necessarily. These are not lifelong homeschooling people for the most part. 80% of the kids I've worked with are the kid in the family who hit the wall in junior high or early high school and whose parents were willing to listen to this alternative idea. But they were not homeschooling before, They may have only done North Star for a year or two and gone back to school after a year or two out, or they may have stayed out for the duration while their siblings continue to go to school, while the parents continue to work in schools. We're not, saying nobody should go to school. My own two children who are now 24 and 21 chose to go to school, though my daughter has her own path, which I'll tell you about later if we get to it. But so we're not going to be a school, and kids don't have to come. And when I teach my history class, they don't have to come. So if they don't want to come listen to me or be part of my group, good. All right, just leave me alone and let me teach to the 7 kids who do want to hear about what we're doing or read the thing or be part of it, right? And when there's a rock band, if they don't want to go, they shouldn't go, right? It's like the senior center. It's not very complicated. We do this everywhere in the rest of the world other than school. We have activities, people go to them if they want. We don't have grades, we don't have homework, we don't have assignments. I mean, there's homework if it's naturally obvious that there'd be things to do in between sessions. It's very simple. You can't graduate from North Star. We don't have credits or diplomas. If you need to, most of the kids go into college and they do so very simply by starting with community college during their teen years. If they need a diploma for some reason, they mostly get the GED or the high set in our state. Some of them are, rally to the homeschooling cause and make their own homeschooling diplomas, but mostly we're talking about kids getting the GED or just going to college without one and getting their associate's degree and moving on to 4-year school, and never bothering with the stupid high school diploma. Turns out there's nothing you really need a high school diploma for, and that the GED is not 100% useful for and covering. So I tell people you don't even need a high school diploma. It's not worth the paper it's printed on. If you want to go to high school, go to high school. My kids went to high school. I went to high school. I would not have opted out back in the day, in the 80s. But if you don't like high school, don't go. It's not a big deal. It's like not going to summer camp. Who cares? So don't go. Get a grip. And so, but to not go to school, someone needs to explain to the kid and their parents, this is not dangerous. This is not worrisome. This is not going to end up bad. This is going to be just fun. This is going to be the greatest decision of your life. This is the pivotal. You're 13 years old and you're in a pivotal moment of your life right now. Yesterday was your last day of school. How about that? We're going to have your parents write the homeschooling thing tonight, and you are now in charge of yourself. You, along with your parents. I'm not asking you to be on a pedestal to be a spoiled brat who just annoys the heck out of the rest of us. I'm not giving you license to be a nuisance, but take yourself seriously. This was your last day of school. Congratulations. Never go again. And guess what? No one's ever going to care. No one's ever going to care, right? And so that was this idea of 2 teachers quitting school for their own benefit to keep themselves sane and have a better life for themselves by offering kids an alternative, the support they need to opt out of school. That's something we made up 25 years ago. It's still going. And now we have a dozen centers modeled after it. So our program's North Star. It's technically in Sunderland is the town, which is in the suburbs of, it's next to Amherst. It's it's college town. We're right next to Amherst. And we have, 800, 900 alumni, and they're all fine. And I haven't made, helping all those kids leave school and file homeschooling papers who never would have, for them, not all of them, but the large majority of them would not have left school without North Star. They would have just mostly suffered through and graduated like normal Americans. Some of them would have crashed and burned and ended up in inpatient hospitals, or they would have dropped out in distress and negativity. But for the most part, I'm talking about kids who would have somehow been shepherded through school on normal terms if their parents cared enough to come to North Star, listen to me, file the homeschooling papers, and deal with North Star and homeschooling for a few years. They would have shepherded their kids through school. But believe it or not, for coaching all these kids to opt out of school, to come to a program that doesn't give credits or diplomas, and to be completely free to come or not come to anything that we have to offer, I have made nobody's life worse, right? We have liberated kids. We have made lives incredibly better. It's unbelievable how simple the idea is and how powerful it is, right? Everybody can homeschool if they want. There's no lottery, there's no admissions, there's no delay. It's immediate. Today was your last day of school. Don't ever go again. You can't do that with private school or charter schools or alternative schools. And when you do those other schools, there's schools that still require you to come 5 days a week, 6 hours a day through 12th grade, right? I'm talking about, well, if you want North Star, I have this lovely program. If you don't want North Star, you can just go unschool, self-direct, homeschool yourself without me. I'll be the one guy who gave you a speech one day that you listened to and that you never see again, but changed your whole life. That happens more than you think. Happens a lot, actually. The kids actually quit school because of, meeting, the intake meeting with me, even though they go home and tell their parents, I don't want that guy in that program. That's too much. He's crazy. And, you know, there's 16, 17-year-olds who are going to enroll in community college or have a job or some kind of internship or other kind of serious hobby or thing that they're going to do. And the last thing they want is another teen center. Like, that's just not, you know, so just telling people and explaining to them in plain words, so don't go to high school, no one really cares, is revolutionary. It's crazy talk. So I'll stop there.
So I absolutely love everything about that. And just to give you one anecdote, I once met a young woman, you know, teenager, 14 or 15. She'd been clinically depressed for a couple of years, on medication, all of that. I met with her and I told her, look, you don't need to go to school. She was in school and miserable. He said, you can just study for AP tests on your own and never go to school again. And literally, she walked out of that meeting, just like you said, she was happy and well, off the meds, you know, ambitious, motivated, done.
You're not making it up. I'm sure it's true. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's just like your experience. Separately, one more anecdote, and then I have a question for you. In the 1990s, I ran across a story of 2 middle school boys who dropped out of school in Florida and filed paperwork to become a private school. And they basically quit going to school, set up their own private school, basically, you know, did exactly what you're doing and became entrepreneurs as adults, because clearly they have initiative to know that school is BS. Right. But my question is the finances. How do you make this work? You have to put, you know, buy cans of tuna and whatnot.
Yeah. It's pretty rough.
How do you make this work?
So the, I'll come back and tell you my daughter after the finances, because it's a good story. We have this year it's sliding scale, but in general, we've had a couple of tiers based on how much you're actually coming into the center, from $3,000 to $8,000 a year. We've turned nobody away in 25 years for inability to pay the fee. That means some people pay very little. Below that, they go through an evaluation, and they're not really lying for the most part. And you know, but about 60 to 70% of the families around here can pay our full fees, and about 1/3 to 40% can't pay our full fees. You know, not everybody has $5,000 a year laying around for teenager private education. So with about 60 kids, we get about 2/3 of our money from the fees. If everybody could pay full, we'd be done. So we're a nonprofit. We do fundraising. We host something called Circus Smirkus. Next month, we're putting on, with 2 other nonprofits, we're putting on a colossal midwinter Zoom music festival thing. It's going to be the best thing ever. You should all log in and see it, called Get Down With My Hometown. You'll love it. It's all a bunch of local musicians from Western Mass, both adults sponsoring young kids and young kids from North Star and other local young music programs. It's going to be fabulous. But it's going to, anyway, we're pretty good at fundraising is the point. We have some major events, a banquet, you know, we have Giving Tuesday and the Alumni Drive, and you know, we didn't start off being very good at it, but over the years, so we can a budget of about $400,000. We raise about 2/3 of that in membership fees and about 1/3 of that in fundraising over the year, over $100,000 from donations and fundraising. It's pretty thin, to be honest with you, to pay living wages and have a building and a space, you know, to do it for $300,000 to $400,000. That's not a lot of space to maneuver. And then when you lose 5 or 10 kids or you have, you know, a few too many not paying, or the COVID destroys the fundraiser, you know, it's kind of rough. Like this is not a very easy thing to sustain. As we all know, any little alternative private school, any little alternative private program, when you're trying to pay a living wage and overhead from the fees of the people doing it, and you're trying to keep it inclusive and not too expensive, that's kind of like a lot of things that don't necessarily fit together very easily. So it is indeed a real challenge. You know, everybody struggles with that their own way, but either lower fees, or somehow getting a free space, or having an angel donor, or, you know, a board of directors that's particularly good at fundraising, or some mix of all of those things, or one staff member who can work for free. You know, it takes some luck, and also it takes, you know, in my case, it takes some capital to allow us to survive and live through the leanest times, right? You know, but that's like running anybody's small business or a bakery or restaurant, right? Anybody else is trying to run a small little bookstore, you know, retail store right now. You know, it's pretty hard to do any business operation in America these days. COVID aside even, right? But especially now with COVID, but you know, it's tricky to make the ends meet, right?
Can you put the details of your fundraiser in the chat, please, at some point?
Oh,
But when you're not, you know, having to talk.
Yeah, I don't know the website. Well, the name of it's Get Down with your
Hometown.
If one of you types that into Google right now, you'll see there's a new website that's up, and it's awesome. So maybe
I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that.
Any alumni donations?
It's awesome.
Do you have any kind of alumni or traditional alumni giving, or not yet?
Yeah. So we have an alumni drive, but let's just say that it's happening and it's growing, and it's a small dent in the overall fundraising issue. We center that on the Giving Tuesday moment, but along with other annual donors who aren't part of the fundraisers. The Circus Smirkus thing that we bring this youth circus to town has been the most successful. This thing that we're doing this winter is going to be fabulous, and we'll divide it 3 ways with the other 2 nonprofits, but it's going to work well. Just having some major donors and some board members who have some resources to contribute as well. It's a combination of things. It's a long way to raising $50,000, $80,000, $100,000, right? You know, it takes several different buckets. Let's put it that way. It would be a lot easier if every family could just pay $6,000 or $8,000 a year. Boy, I wouldn't know what to do with all that money. If, you know, 50 families just paid $6,000 to $8,000 a year, I'd have a lot of, you know, the whole system would have a lot of slack and free time in it, right? But you know, a lot of people believe in what we do, and so there's donors who are giving outside of the fundraising events as well, right? I mean, you know, there's some longevity to what we've done that helps. Let's put it that way, right? Yeah. I was just gonna say about the girl you were talking about. So my daughter, I'm gonna tell her story real quick. She just put it up in a blog. I have a website that's kennethdanford.com with a blog, and I just reposted her blog herself. She just graduated from UVM this month, and she did it only in 5 semesters there, which she wasn't trying to do. She wasn't in a race. But after 10th grade, she was fed up with high school. In 11th grade, she did a survival living semester with a program called CROCA out of New Hampshire. But if you know Outward Bound or those survival living semester programs, she did one of those things. It's 40 degrees below zero and whatnot. She did that for a semester, got some college credit out of that, came back and did the community college senior year full time, got a year's worth of college credit for that. Took a year away and went to family cousin in Micronesia, Green Banana Paper Company, worked with him for 6-8 months, did some scuba diving there that turned into credit. Came to UVM, they took everything. Next thing you know, she did things efficiently and only needed 5 semesters instead of 6 to graduate there. So she's done now, and though she's still staying up there, right? No AP classes, no high school after 10th grade, no 4 years of this, that, and the other. Got into all 4 colleges she accepted when she applied to environmental science colleges like Warren Wilson and College Atlantic. Got into all of them offered significant aid. She ended up at UVM, has had a brilliant time, and she's not done there. So even though she's graduated and has no more classes to do, she's going to keep living up there with her pals, right? For another semester, if not another year and a half, because they're still going to school and she's got a whole household and pals to live with. So, you know, it's so simple. The point is, and she's not, I mean, she's special, but I like to say she's not that special. You know, I mean, she's my kid, but you know, anybody can do this. And it's not because of resources. I mean, the CROCA thing costs money that first semester, but to use some community college during your high school years, to do a gap year with a family cousin who lives in the weirdest place that your family knows, that's safe, that you can go like exchange work for room and board there, that's free, and then, you know, transfer to a state university. This is not requiring excess funds. This is not restricted. It's restricted to people with a little bit of gumption and confidence, a little bit of risk. It's not really even risk taking, because we know how it's gonna. I mean, we all knew it. She's watching me work all these years growing up. She had a sense, so it didn't even feel risky, and it just was like, oh, really? You're done that fast? Oh, yeah. Really? You're done with Burlington? No, well, you're not done with Burlington. Oh, good. You're not done with Burlington. You stay there. Good. All right. You're just done with UVM. All right. You're done with being a student. All right. That's okay. I'll take that. But the point is that my son, he went straight through high school, 4 years of high school, 4 years of college. he's working for AmeriCorps in a school now, and he laughs at me because he likes working in the school. And he's like, you know, I don't know what you're so bothered about, Dad. You need some rules. What's the big deal, right? He loves working with kids. So you know, the thing is just we should each do the thing that suits us, right? I'm working in my career the way that suits me. My son's doing the thing that suits him. He wanted to go to high school. He wanted to go to college straight through. No gap year, no time off for him. My daughter got fed up and she's got to go explore everything. And well, Dad, you say is, and I don't know. Okay, you go. You know, and so, and then, you know, as you know, from the unschooling world and from the alternative school world out here in self-directed learning, there's lots of different nuances. There's the Sudbury people, and there's the Agile Learning Center people, and there's the unschooling co-ops, and there's the liberated learners, you know, centers like mine with adults who try to get paid to make a living to help school people abandon school and do this. You know, they're all overlapping, and you know, they have their own little twist. But the point is, each of them are founded by people who are trying to be true to their own personal vision, to have some integrity about what they're trying to offer, right? And so Workspace was different in its way, but we're all trying to create a free and open and respectful environment for young people to have as much freedom as possible with as few restrictions and almost nothing that's arbitrary. All the restrictions would be explainable, right? From who's ever in charge to who's ever implementing it to the kid hearing it. It's not that hard. And that's how we do the rest of life. It's just not how we choose to do schools.
Totally agree. Totally agree. No, and one of the things I really respect is the fact that you left the system. I personally almost get sick when I go in a school building these days. It just gives me the creeps. But there are people that are happy there. Totally acknowledge that. I want to check in on parents. To what extent do you deal with, you know, having to convince parents, or have the teens already convinced their parents, or is that hard?
So imagine you have a kid with like the girl you were meeting, you know, the struggling girl with the depression, or, you know, just the musician entrepreneurial kid who stares out the window of school. They're kind of doing their assignments and getting their B minuses, but they don't really like it. Even they're getting A's, and they're just like, how many more years am I doing this poetry crap? Because I got real poems to write, you know. So somebody has to call, and someone has to agree to come in for a meeting. And I'm not going to meet a kid without their parents. It doesn't happen. So I get them all there, and I say, you know, who brought who? And does everybody want to be here having this conversation? And if not, thank you for coming anyway. And let me get the lay of the land here. In most cases, it's the parents initiating and bringing the kid, and the kids are almost sure that the parents are bringing them to some other goofy, fake alternative school that's going to be, you know, a wolf in sheep's clothing. They don't really trust me or what I'm about to say. They've been to too many of these places that didn't turn out well. This is their 4th time doing this crud. And they're at some other new thing their parents bring them to with some guy who's going to say all this nice crap, and it's going to end up poorly. They know it, right? And so, you know, my job is to both talk to the parents, and I mostly talk to the kids. I mostly ignore the parents in the first meeting. I talk to the kid, and you know, what have you liked about school? What haven't you liked? What do you want to do? Do you want to be here? You know, does this whole thing sound interesting to you? What would you do if you could just, you know, start from scratch? Do you want a center like North Star in your life? And then I look at the parents and go, you know, what would you be worried about if your kid didn't have a school that was making them do things, and it was up to you and us together, you know, to be that bottom line? How would you feel about that? So in most cases, I can absolutely, I won't let them leave. It's not really convincing because it's factual. It's not a belief system. You don't need to go to school. School's optional. It's a fact. This is not something like I don't like have faith in it. It's like, it's just something I know. And so I don't let them leave if they don't acknowledge that everything that high school graduates can do, these unschoolers have been doing for the last 40 years without going to school. They can't ignore that. They can't deny that. Okay. Now, so what the parents say is, well, that's true for all your superstar crazy kids, but my kid, oh, it won't work for them. They're just going to turn into a mush pile of TV watching and game playing, and they're going to do nothing and sleep. And so you go have your program, but my kid's not coming here because my kid, it won't work with my kid, right? Or the kids will say the same thing. The kids will say, you know, I don't think I want to do this, right? Or I just want to stay in school with my friends. Mom, I promise I'll try a little harder. you know, just let me stay in school with Joey. You know, I don't want to leave school, right? I just want to get my bad grades and stay in school because that's where all the fun is. And I don't want to be one of those weird kids who gets labeled for having to go to some special school, which they think this is, right? So, you know, the kids will resist coming to North Star. The parents will resist. And so, you know, it's just a matter of one at a time, talking to each person, listening to the whole. There's no rhyme or reason, and there's no pattern necessarily of who's going to object or who's going to be the least interested. But it's not about convincing. I mean, I don't let it be about convincing, because I just tell them, like, you know, I just yell at them, like, stop it. This is not up for debate. Everything I've been doing for 25 years, everything the homeschooling movement's been doing before me, everything that I've learned about this world, you know, that people are doing, never met me or North Star. You don't need North Star to do this. You can do this without, you know, people have been doing it just fine. This is all true. It's like, you can't say that vegans die. You know, you can't say that home birthing is a disaster. You can't say that people who do alternative health methods instead of conventional medicine all, you know, are sick and clogging out the hospitals. These are just not truths. You can choose that those alternative things may not be for you or your child or your family right now. That's fine. You don't have to want to do the thing that I'm offering. But you cannot deny that I'm presenting something that is coherent and true. So, and then I just let them reject it after a while, you know, so.
Yeah, Ken, like, so I get that, but like, you know, I have a lot of people coming into workspace and they think that they're breaking the law by putting their child out of school, right? Because
So,
you know, it says that you have to be in school until a certain age. So can you talk to us about that?
So first of all, everybody's going to legally, with my help or North Star's help or the Liberated Learner Center's help, we're going to coach everybody to file the homeschooling plans with the local superintendents. It's so easy, and there's no reason not to do it. Now, on occasion, we get people who won't do it and resist, and that's their business, and I don't care. They can be members of North Star and flout the law, but there's no reason to do it, and it gives homeschooling overall a bad name, so it's not really that helpful to the movement. But if there's someone who's on bad terms with their school system and doesn't, their school's not going to notice, and they're in a private school and no one's going to even know, and the public school is not going to know, and they don't want to bother with the homeschooling plan. Okay. I wish they would, but they're not going to. Fine. I don't need it. I couldn't care less. And I will start straight with, well, what's a real plan for your kid, for your family? What are the goals? What do you want? What do you want from North Star? We'll just go straight there and not worry about filing a plan, right? If the kid's under 16 in Massachusetts. If they're over 16, they don't need a plan. But so the very way back when, at least 20 years ago, we have a woman who's an author, a children's author, with a way with words. And super intellectual parents with a miserable kid in school, an intellectually miserable kid in school. And she said, I've never forgotten this, that it felt deliciously naughty to write the homeschooling plan and yank your kid from school. I thought that was words I would never put together or use in my life, but she's a children's writer. Deliciously naughty as a way to yank your kid from school and tell the superintendent, you're not going to see my kid anymore. Goodbye. Sure, we all get a little surge of adrenaline when we realize when you realize that that's all it is. So you're just going to tell them you're not going to go anymore, and that's all there is. There's not really homeschooling police. There's not really the school board inspector that you have to get over. There's no real obstacle. You're just going to fill out a form or create a little plan document, and you're just going to drop it off, and they're going to put a check on it, and that's all there is. Who didn't tell me that sooner? That's the reaction.
I hear that, and I see that so many times, but the parents they feel like a rug has been pulled out from under them when they suddenly don't have the scaffolding of a school system, and they've been so used to being coddled all this time. So it feels very scary to do that, to take that.
Yes, but what's more painful, scary schmary, but yes, it is. But what's seriously more painful to me is when I meet a 16-year-old kid who's been hating school since 11, and they listen to me talk, and they get it, and they're putting two and two together. So when I pause, they look at me and they say, so you mean to tell me that my last 5 years were for nothing? And I say, sorry, yes. Except, built some character, I guess. right? You didn't need to be in school these last 5 years from 11 to 16 suffering the way you have been. And your parents could have filed homeschooling papers and I would have coached them with the same talk and the same speech 5 years ago. And yes, you could have lived the last 5 years differently. That hurts. Okay, that is hard to keep a straight face on. But talking to a parent who's scared that they're going to pull their kid from school, I'm sorry, it just doesn't. No, I just like.
Right, but society, right, has such a strong framework in place, and these parents have got like siblings and people telling them that you're nuts, and it's a really hard decision for most parents.
You're speaking to a truth. I don't mean to diminish it. And if you weren't speaking the truth, North Star, which is hovering between 50 and 70 members the last 10 years for our demographic, for the population of our counties here, should be at like 500 to 700. We're missing a zero on the number of kids at North Star. And the reason we're at 50 to 70 and not 500 to 700 is because people are paralyzed by this cultural myth that you're describing. It's absolutely true what you're saying. I just I can't worry about it. Like there's some things that are like, I've written a book that's full of stories. I can talk, I have podcasts, I have, articles, I can do what I can, and I can create a safe center that says, if you are a working parent, if you don't have enough money, I will help you write a homeschooling plan today, and my program will help your kid not go to school tomorrow for the duration as long as they want it. I don't know what more to do. That's what I'm doing, and I'm going to keep doing it because it's really fun and meaningful. But beyond that, Kath, it can't be like, the religious person at the church going, I wish attendance were higher at our church. We have more. I just don't know why everybody doesn't come more. And I'm just not going to moan and groan about it. We're 50 to 70 kids, and we're going to do the best we can by those 50 to 70 kids. And we're going to, every time the phone rings, I have another opportunity to talk to one more family. And my work happens essentially one family at a time, not dozens of families at a time. And I happen to be satisfied with that. But what you're saying it's totally true. But anyway, I just can't focus on that part.
You're doing exactly the right thing. And I see, I experience very, very similar things too in my work, but I'm applauding you for sticking with it.
Well, I will say that the bigger level is this liberated learners coaching that we do. We have these webinars twice a month for people interested in our model, and we have about a dozen centers open. So one of them is in Manila, in the Philippines. So believe it or not, because of our work, I went to the Philippines. They brought me out there, and I met the people before that. Because of us, our team, and the whole consulting, there are 50 kids, 40 kids, whatever they are, at Abotala, ABOTTALA, abotala.org. Out of school, somewhere in Manila, there's a bunch of happy kids who are out of school being coached just this way by a little center that's now online only, and they had to give up their physical space during COVID. But somewhere in Manila, let alone somewhere in Leesburg, Virginia, and somewhere in Princeton, New Jersey. I mean, and Los Angeles, there are centers model after. So I can coach some people to start their own centers, and that it adds up. I'm underplaying myself there, but the cultural resistance is tremendous.
So Ken, I'm going to send you materials. A campaign that I'm organizing really, and love to have you and your network be part of is, I've done small personalized alt schools for decades, and I see hundreds of kids who are anxious, depressed, suicidal, on medications, yada, yada, yada. A few weeks, few months in, happy, well, problems totally gone. I believe that there is a public health catastrophe, and maybe 70 to 80% of teens really ought to be in some other environment than the one they're in. And that's going to help flip this around. I'm calling it Mama Bear Revolution. So when the Mama Bears realize that their child is in serious risk of self-harm or indirect harm, we'll make progress. So I'd love to have you and your network be part of that.
Sure.
I want to check in. Have you ever had to ask a child or a family to leave your program?
Very rarely. So when there's conflict, or trust is violated, we haul them off, privately. There's usually at least two adults so that, there's witness, and so that one of us isn't just operating in anger. And the teen involved, all the teens who were immediately involved, plus any other teens they want, would be there. If it doesn't get resolved in the moment on site, then we would tell kids they can't come back the next day until they come in with their parents, and we escalate to parents being present too. So, most of it is pretty trivial, is done in the moment, and it's serious though, right? Because you can't be at North Star if we can't trust you. We don't supervise kids. There's lots of rooms to be in without adults. We're not chasing you around. You don't have to come to my classes. So, you can have your phones and your computers, and, just be nice and be decent to each other, right? So when kids steal, or kids, are, they can't be high, or they can't use drugs or sell drugs, or, steal things or take each other's phones and play jokes on each other in a mean way. They can't swear in the common room. They can't make racist jokes, and that gets open to interpretation. So who's judge, So, we have all these meetings where we say, that's dodgy. People are objecting, and can we resolve this? Normally we can't. Now, when there's been, a legal kind of thing like pot, then we'll send the kid away and tell them they can't come back till they come back with their parents. Then we say, look, we're a small program. We can't be, pot center, and we'll close down. No one will come here anymore. We'll go out of business. And you need to reckon with your impact on the community here. 9 times out of 10 a kid will go, okay, got it, my bad, I'll take me and my habit elsewhere. I won't involve you guys in my issues anymore. And they're 9 times out of 10 they're good at their word, right? But it takes that kind of thing. If they can't, we'll ask them to leave.
Mm-hmm.
If they we had a couple antisocial kids who couldn't help themselves but foment trouble, gossipy fomenter kids, giving everybody's business and stoke rumors about each other. Or there were kids who had a romance and then broke up, and now they got to talk trash about each other to everybody else. If we can't get that under control and keep that off the turf of poisoning all the community, and they refuse to acknowledge what they've said and done, or who they're saying and to, and how they're being hurtful, and they just insist that is their right, this is their form of joking or ha-has, and they should be allowed to do that. It'll escalate to with parents to the point where we will say, no, we can't accept that. And if the kid says too bad, then we'll say, well, this place isn't big enough for the both of us, and I'm really not going anywhere, so I'm sorry, but until we, why don't you go home and think about it, and maybe another week we'll have another meeting, or another month we'll have another conversation, but until then you can't come, right? Like 3 kids in 25 years, we get to that point, someone who's dealing pot and denies it when we know it's true, right? We know, stop it, right? Like, own up to it, for goodness sake, right? So there are kids, though, when we get to that crisis, they'll withdraw rather than come to these meetings. Rarely. I know there's 3 or 5 in 25 years. A handful of kids will just be like, this is not worth my time and my parents. I'm not going through this crud. I don't even want those people anyway. So they'll withdraw. And the kids who still want us but won't resolve it with us in a mutually decent way, it's just so scarce that we have to tell them they can't be here. I'm sorry.
Even though it's scarce, I think it's really important for our movement to talk about this. I have seen a few alt schools that were dominated by, as it were, the bullies or jerks. And I think that one of the reasons, in addition to our freedom message, we absolutely have to talk about the way we curate and care for community, which includes sometimes kicking kids out or going through a process, like what you're doing.
Yeah, I have an article on tipping points with the Alliance for Self-Directed Education about managing in the moment, managing conflict at North Star, which I've written up. But we have people, there's always some adults in the common room, and even though we're not participating in the corner conversation and the kids are over there yucking it up, we have an ear. And when we hear, dodgy stuff, we intervene in the moment, like, yo, not common room talk, go for a walk. Like, we're not gonna tell them they can't say those things. We're gonna say, you can't say them here in this space. So at least go outside or go for a walk or take that elsewhere, right? You can't poison North Star with that kind of nonsense. And it's immediate. It is a big part of our community job. And it's not just the adults. There are kids who care as well. And sometimes they don't have the courage or the wherewithal to call out another kid in the moment, but they'll come to their weekly advisories with North Star staff and go, you know, it's kind of crappy in the common room these days because so-and-so is always making these comments. And, you know, when we can't get them to stop, right? So kids will report it, and then we'll work, you know, how to proceed from that, either with that kids coming forward with our help or without the kids coming forward. But North Star's culture is not dependent only on the adults enforcing it upon the kids. It's definitely like communal. You know, we have a weekly community meeting, and we'll go around the room and say, when you walk into the kitchen and it's full of dishes and no one's done them and you can't even find a counter to work on, how do you feel? And we go around, everybody has a turn to say, you know, it's frustrating, it's all crap, right? It makes me not want to come that day, or it makes me, you know, and everybody gets a chance. You know, some people pass and don't have anything they want to say, but you know, when you know that someone lost, you know, someone went into someone's bag and took $20 out at North Star, what's that like to be in our community now when you know that information, right? And kids are very, you know, moving about how that impacts them when they hear that happen to somebody else, right? And so our community is not just these clever adults who are so nice, you know, enforce these gentle rules carefully. It's that we're building and nurturing a concept of, you know, there's never a moment when everybody's there. It's not like a school, so but you know, we have this North Star community, and we all care about it. We all want this place to be what we think it is, and when people make it not what we think it is, it's really hurtful, right?
I always have more questions, but I'll see if anybody else, does anybody else have questions for Ken? Well, they're thinking, any legal issues over the years? I could, you know, again, I love what you do, and it sounds kind of scary from a legal perspective. So any legal?
None, not a one. You know, the very first year when we were first thinking of it, when I was still teaching in the Amherst Junior High School, we kind of like kept it a secret, and we didn't really announce it until the day after school was out, because I was sure that people would spread bad rumors about Joshua Hornick and myself, because we were going to resign and start this alternative thing that would smear us. And then I was sure that, you know, some superintendent was going to come out of the woodwork and go, that's not real homeschooling, and these parents can't go to work, and these kids, and you know, in that space, there's never been. So the only person who's ever cared about us, honest to God, is the fire inspector. We've had 4 buildings, but in one of our buildings, it was an old public abandoned elementary school we were using, and the fire inspector was sure that we were going to incinerate a bunch of kids not from his town on his property, and he was not going to be held accountable for it. And he would come in every year and give us a long list of the curtains and the couches and all the bad things we had, right? And he was really seriously annoyed with us on a routine basis. You know, and the building inspector of that same building, who didn't think that the roof was, you know, they abandoned that school as a public school for a reason, and they didn't really like that the select board was renting it out to us. So the inspectors weren't particularly happy, not because we were a homeschooling alternative education program, just because we were out-of-towners with kids from out of town who they were going to be held accountable for in their inspection jobs if anybody got hurt, right? That's the closest it comes. There's never been, we have a superintendent, school, we have cordial relationships with the public schools and the superintendents. There's nothing to fear. Do
you have public school teachers who recommend kids do you ever have any public school teachers say, wow, that one needs to go to North Star, and refers them?
Yes, secretly and rarely. What do you think would happen to a public school teacher in the Amherst High School who was publicly known to be the adult in the building who said, you know, I coached 7 kids to withdraw from this school and file homeschooling papers and join North Star because this school is a waste of their time? You know, if a guidance counselor was doing that on a regular basis or was known to be doing that on a regular basis, they would be in hot water with their colleagues schools are supposed to be good places for everyone. And the people who work there, myself included back in the day, was pretty committed to making school work for all the students in their building. And if you're going to have a traitor in the building who says, nah, there's nothing we can do to help that kid should just get out of here. Someone tell that kid to file homeschooling and go to North Star and get out of here. That's not going to be a popular person, and that person will get fired if they're vulnerable, right? That's not going to go well. Therapists do, coaches do, out of school people refer people, but you try to get school personnel, some do, but not as much as you think, because it's dodgy.
Okay.
Yeah, so Ken, the difference between homeschooling, right? Like, so a teenager who's homeschooling and a teenager, what the experience would be inside of North Star, how is that different?
I don't think there's any difference. I think we're helping school people become homeschoolers, period. And I think that, loads of independent homeschoolers, I use the word independent homeschoolers to distinguish the concept. Loads of independent homeschoolers have Wednesday nature outdoor day and Thursday special club day with the homeschooling co-op and Friday theater program, right? A lot of, especially teens, and some of them are taking community college classes independently as homeschoolers, and some of them have jobs that, 10 hours a week at the barn or whatever they're doing, right? The thing that we're coaching kids to do is to live what I consider to be an authentic homeschooling lifestyle. And the fact that they needed North Star to help them make this transition and actually then continue using North Star for some period of time into that experience, and maybe for the duration until they're 17 or 18, does not make them any less of a homeschooler. I just helped a school kid become a homeschooler, and the kid that is a North Star member is just as much legally a homeschooler as anybody who's been a lifelong independent homeschooler. And so just because, it's like, to me, and this is oversimplifying, and I don't know if I'm going to offend anybody here, but that's like arguing that someone who belongs to a health club isn't a real exerciser compared to someone who runs independently. Because you have to join a club and pay people money and you exercise in classes. Real runners just get a pair of shoes and run for free, right? Come on, to me, it's kind of like that, right? Or, backyard gardeners, are different. Well, they are different from like being a member of a CSA, but being a member of a CSA versus, say, shopping at a farmer's market. We're splitting hairs here, right? Do we care?
Yeah, but most people have a business, right? And they want to keep clients. But it sounds like you are, helping them get out of the nest so they can do it on their own without you.
I regularly tell everybody, I'm going to tell you something that is easy and something you can do with or without me, which is file a homeschooling plan. And then you can choose to homeschool with or without North Star. Now, you wouldn't be sitting in this chair having this meeting and getting me hollering at you if you didn't need me, probably. So I'm not too worried that, you're not going to need me. But you can do this just as well without me. Loads of families have been homeschooling independent without Ken and North Star for decades, right? But not families like yours. You're not the kind of person who homeschools independently from birth. You're an overwhelmed two-career parent couple who no one's at home and no one wants to do this, and it's just not your style. It's not who you are. You're not going to homeschool without me. I know that, and you know that. But your kid may not really want North Star very long. You may only need us for a year or two, and see these independent homeschoolers and how they look when they're 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. Your kid's going to look like them in no time. And you throw them all up against the wall, and you can't tell who's been lifelong homeschooling and who's been at North Star for 6 months and it was in school before then, because you can't tell, because it works, because it's the same thing. They're not going to school and they're in control of their lives, and some are members. And then you get the 20%, of North Star members who are independent homeschoolers who at 15 do join North Star. There are some, there's 15 kids at North Star who were homeschooling independently before joining North Star because at that age, they're sick of their parents. The homeschooling co-op has run its course. Most of the homeschoolers locally have gone to school, but these kids don't want to. And now they're out, but now there's like, oh my God, there's a whole mecca of North Star for a year or two at 15, 16 for them to join into. And no one's going to make them do anything they don't want to do. And it's not 5 days a week, and it's not school, and it's not graded. And these people, us people, we're not out of our minds with authority and crap. And so they could just join North Star and use us for a day or 2 or 3 a week for a year or 2 until they're done with us. Perfect, sign me up. And so we do get a bunch of lifelong independent homeschoolers who use us in that way for a couple of years. And in fact, those kids' parents are the rest of the staff at North Star. All the rest of the staff at North Star, these veteran, lifelong independent homeschooling parents who joined North Star for a few years, started volunteering and made themselves indispensable. But be that as it may,
well,
I deny the gap between independent. I mean, there is a gap. I know it when I see it. There are independent homeschoolers who are never going to join North Star. And there are North Star people who would never homeschool independently. But legally, and I'm still responding to your question a few minutes ago, I don't see a gap. North Star is independent homeschooling. That's what we're doing. We're not a school. We're not taking responsibility. I'm not in charge. I'm not making sure of diddly squat.
Right, but I do remember. I mean, I was a homeschooler. I was homeschooling my children since they were very young, so I got to around the teenage years, and I just didn't really feel like homeschooling anymore. Like, I don't want to teach algebra, right. And I certainly didn't want to teach it a second time, right? For my youngest one, so I can imagine how great having a resource center like yours would be in a place even for independent homeschoolers.
Absolutely. I just don't think there's a living to be had. There hasn't been in the last 20 years. Maybe it'll happen in the coming 20 years that there's enough homeschoolers willing to pay enough money to sustain a physical center. These homeschoolers are used to as you've demonstrated, they're used to their co-ops. They're used to paying not very much to go to the co-op activities, right? And asking them to pay a lot more is a bit of a stretch. I mean, it's just a little bit of a mix of worlds. But families like yours and adults like you are the parent I'm talking about who become the staff at North Star. Your kids come in as 12 to 14-year-old homeschoolers. You come in as a volunteer with them. Your kids, are delighted to participate in the smorgasbord of North Star stuff that's there. They come in 2-3 days a week, depending on their age and their interests, right, and how busy they are outside. And they love us, and we love them for 2, 3, 4 years. And then they go away because they're going off to all the other activities at 16, 17 years old, and they're done with us. And then you become hired because you're no longer going to volunteer so much. That's exactly what happens at North Star. Right? There's not really that big a gap.
We're running out of time, but I think I can speak for all of us to say that it's been fabulous to have you, Kenneth. And I very much look forward to finding ways to collaborate on liberating millions of teens from the unnecessary miseries of schooling.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm Michael Strong with expanseonline.co. We have an open house tomorrow night, and thanks to my colleagues, Tori, Andrew, and Kath.
All right. Just before you go, Ken, how do we reach you? Like, if we have all these parents out there that
how
would we do that?
So there's www.northstarteens.org.
Okay.
That's the website. My personal website is kennethdanford.com, and Ken.
And that's where we can read about your daughter, right?
Yes, and my blog. It's her blog, but I reposted it. And there's more than you need to know about. There's videos of alumni interviews I did for the Homeschooling Global Summit this summer, which I think are good. There's my TED Talk and a second video. There's some interviews podcasts with Blake Bowles. There's actually a lot of podcasts up there.
Great. And can you hold up?
Yeah, you get tired of me. Again?
You hold up your book again.
Oh,
for us.
Learning is natural. School's optional. You can either order it through the website or through Amazon or a couple of local Massachusetts bookstores here in Amherst.
Oh, those kids on the cover look so happy.
They are.
Yeah.
They are. They're nice kids.
So excited and I cherish your dedication to these teenagers and that you've been at it for 25 years. And I heard you've just bought your building, and it's so great that you started the whole liberated learners collaborative. And yes.
So I know you're in Connecticut. I don't know if the rest of the people on the screen are nearby too, but you're about an hour and a half from me. So if you're near Kath and you want to visit North Star when it's open again, feel free to let me know, and you can actually come up to You know, we're right up 91. You know, we're a half hour north of Springfield. And I can come to you guys too. That'd be fun too. I'm always happy to drive around. So
Terrific.
right.
Post-COVID, we'll visit.
There'll be a life.
All right. Thanks, Kenneth.
All right.
Take care.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Okay. Bye-bye.